Welcome to the Better Two podcast. I'm your host, Donna. Today's guest is Phil Galloni of Waverly Drive. Phil and I sit down and talk about the new record coming out this week, as well as, the meanings behind the song, community, and so much more. So tune in. Hi, Phil. How are you doing today?
Doing good. Thanks for having me. How are you?
I'm good. I'm very good. You have a new record coming out next week.
I do.
So,
September.
what made you decide to do an indie record?
Um, I've been doing Waverly, kind of started off completely as a solo project and then I've kind of had bandmates join and just joined gradually over the EPs. So I did three EPs. Um, the first EP was like completely solo. Second had like a few people play on it. And then by the third in this full length, I was still writing the songs, but then kind of had my bass player playing the bass, final bass, and drummer, guitar. There's some other featured guests, but yeah, I don't know. I've just been writing a lot and had enough material to make a full length record. It kind of ended up. It didn't start off being. It's not like I wouldn't say it's completely a concept album, but there's a lot of like consistent themes. It's called Decadence. Um, and just kind of, I've told the title to different people, and a lot of people think decadence just means like lavish lifestyle, but really it's like an ethical and moral decay due to like too much of something. So it's kind of like my take on the just like vast inequality in society today, kind of the second Gilded Age we're living through, which is like even more crazy than the first, in my opinion, just in the sense of just how wealthy the wealthiest are, and how on the other side of it. So,
Well,
um,
and the devaluation of people in general.
yeah, yeah.
What I
So
go ahead.
a lot of the songs kind of revolve around those themes. Uh, Decadence is the title track. And that's like pretty much exactly that theme. And then other ones kind of revolve around, um, I guess, just like varying aspects of life in this world. So like, there's a song called "Roses on a Rainy Day," which just came out. That's about bringing flowers to like a forlorn lover. I kind of describe as like the person that needs flowers the most, the forlorn lover, and just like the loneliness of people, kind of in the more like in the era we're living in. There's a song called "Lazy Day," which was another single. That's kind of my escapism song on the record. Just kind of like saying, "Fuck it, just get away from all this for a day and just forget about everything." So kind of as I had all these songs and started to like figure out which ones are on the record, it kind of all seemed to fit this theme. Uh, so that's kind of how it came about.
I think
And
what's interesting is when I was listening to it, it had a very 80s feel. And when you talk about decadence, everybody thinks of the 80s back in the day, it was very decadent.
yeah,
You everything was portrayed with lavish amounts of money being spent. If you look at the movie Wall Street, how decadent it was. We
yeah,
had movies like No Way Out that had sex in the back of a limo. So we
yeah,
had all these high things. And the interesting thing is, especially like Wall Street. Wall Street led to, and even Oliver Stone has said this, Wall Street had lent itself to the private equity firms that have now gone in and destroyed how many companies.
yeah,
And that goes back to what you're saying, here we are in a time when people don't value necessarily the poor and they just want money and they just want things. And the fact of the matter is you can't take those things with you. So what are you really benefiting from?
yeah,
And
exactly.
and and how do we look past that and really get back to humanity? Unfortunately, with AI and the way our life is now. Because if you go back to the 80s, the one good thing about the 80s is we didn't have I love technology. Don't get me wrong, because we wouldn't be able to do this. But you didn't have that connection of I got to go find this person. I got to see where you're at. Let's go. It was either you call them or that was it. You weren't going to necessarily find them.
Yeah, definitely.
And you definitely weren't going to have somebody go grocery shopping for you. And you weren't going to have stuff coming. You could do mail order, but it wasn't instantaneous. We have so much
Yes,
instant gratification now that it's overwhelming at times.
for sure. Yeah, community is definitely the missing link, and it's sad. You try to build it up. I live in LA, and a lot of people talk about how lonely of a place LA can be. And I've been here 10 years now, and in the beginning years, I can definitely see like what people mean. But I think like, it's really important to build community. I have um, since then, so it doesn't really feel lonely to me, but I think like community is the answer to a lot of these things plaguing society. I mean, you talk about, when I say the second Gilded Age, it's like uh I know they were also doing it for selfish reasons in the first one, where like they would the richest, the Rockefellers would they'd at least like give back to the public in the sense of like building universities or libraries, and they were doing it for selfish reasons too. But at least like some where it's like today, it's just so disconnected. Those people never interact with, there's no interaction with the common person, that they literally just kind of like there is no give back, and that's a huge problem.
Well, especially like the people that are in power making decisions for us, they have no concept. They're screaming that they're not making enough money, so they have to do insider trading and stock trading. Yet their constituents, if they're making $50,000 a year, that's a lot of money for them. But yet
Yeah,
they don't get it. And I'm being generous with the 50,000 mark, but they
yeah,
don't understand. So how can somebody that I've always thought that if you're going to be in public office, then you should live like your constituents for at least a month or a week so you can
the whole
understand
time.
their plight. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And
Yeah,
that's it goes back to what you were saying about the Gilded Age. It's like, when we talk at the French Revolution, and I know she didn't really say it, but let them eat cake. Are we not having that time now?
for sure. Yeah,
And
everybody
so
does it.
you have the song about the girl in the limousine. And I remember being in the 80s, it was like, being a teenager in the 80s, when you saw a limousine, you were like, who is that? There could be
Yeah,
somebody
debutantes
famous.
and old
Yeah.
machine. It's my
Yeah.
favorite. It's my favorite track name on the record.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the one thing. It's like when you look at that, that was the innate, we all aspire to that. It's like people, the biggest lie that we tell ourselves is, well, we don't want to tax the rich because what if I win the lottery?
Right. They want, yeah, the carrot, the stick. Yeah,
Hmm.
debutante limousine's like the temptation song on the record. Like, the chorus is "You get me high, you get me high." Um, but yeah, it's like what you're saying. It's the temptation of like, oh well, you can, the carrot, the stick, like,
So
temptation.
was there a debutante who tempted you in a limousine?
No,
Fair.
uh, I just really liked how it sounded. I'm a big Dylan fan,
Okay.
and uh, I always talk about him to friends and stuff. He's like, in my opinion, like the best lyricist of the 20th century, which I don't think that's that. I mean, it is debatable, but I really love. Anyways, I, I always try to like challenge myself to like expand my um uh, vocabulary with my lyrics. And I was just listening to a Dylan song where he used the word debutante. I can't remember off the top of my head right now because I'm like half awake, but I was like, God, that's such a great sounding word. And then debutante limousine just kind of stuck and kind of went off there. But yeah,
It makes
came about
sense.
with the radio.
It fits well together because yes, debutantes would ride in limousines.
Yeah,
And most likely it would be one of those party limousines now.
yeah.
So what inspired you, because you're a Chicago native, to move out to LA?
So I've always been into music, playing music with friends, record music with friends, and I was in Madison, Wisconsin, uh, for a while, and uh, I had like a home studio, so I was just recording like local bands, friends, and I started building up my studio, and I was working full time, but so I kind of like any music, any money I'd make recording local bands, not charging much. I would just put like get a new mic or just put it, and I was building up my studio and loved doing it, but I just wanted to go to. I kind of just been in Madison long enough where it started to feel like Groundhog Day, where like had been to so many places, so many times. It's a great city. I love it. The winters are brutal, and you know, I just wanted to be somewhere. I don't want to say more of like more opportunity, but larger, more variety. And to me, it was kind of like between LA and New York, music wise. I'm not really like a country Nashville type person, even though I know there's a lot more going on in Nashville. But um, and so I don't know. I visited a screenwriter friend in LA and visited different neighborhoods, kind of checked it out on my own for about 5 days a year before I moved. Talked to different like producers and people. There were a couple of people that I got a hold of that were like really nice, like Gordon Raphael, the guy that did the Strokes' first two records. I found his email and he ended up Skyping me a bunch of times, like the year before I moved, and gave me advice because he had lived in LA a little bit, and so it was just kind of getting advice from different people, and love the idea of like no winter. Love the variety of styles out here musically, and so I just jumped in and moved. So when I first moved here, um, I still wanted to have my studio, but I there's no way I had enough money to like have a separate commercial space. So I just moved like downtown, like kind of pretty close to Skid Row, where you could get like one of these industrial warehouse spaces that you could live out of. It had a shower, uh and have the studio and live out of it. So I did that a few years and then kind
Nice.
of just like, feet wet here.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah, it's been good.
I thought about moving out to LA at one point, but I opted not to. I stayed here.
Yeah, I mean the worst part is obviously the cost of living. Uh, it's so expensive, and I feel like it's definitely worse since the pandemic, which seems like it's worse everywhere, obviously. But yeah, I think if you find like the right community of people, then it can really work. And there's always stuff to do. There's always cool shows going on. Everyone's so creative, like doing stuff. Like kind of being in the Midwest. Um, it's such a um, there's such like a sports undercurrent in the Midwest, like both in Chicago and Madison, both places I lived, where it's like people like set aside days of the week or multiple days a week to just like drink and watch for, and it's just like it's not that fun. And then so then there's still like a bunch of creative people around too, uh, doing stuff, but it's just like I don't know. Here it's what I love is like everyone's doing something and it's just inspiring. And yeah, I love it. A lot of people think uh and it's always people that have never lived in LA or have moved here. They think like everyone's like so cocky and being here. But what I found is literally the opposite, which is like there are so many people operating at like such a high level here and everyone knows it that it like keeps everyone like very humble. Like,
Really.
they know that like they know if they're a great bass player or whoever that like they could be really great, but like if they start to like flake on sessions or if they're just an ass to be around, they know they could be replaced like in 2 minutes. So it keeps people humble and I love that. Like it keeps you like focused on like the actual art and what matters. So yeah, it's cool. I like it. The only time I don't like is like right now it starts to get really hot. It's like in the 90s and the AC is not good. Like I don't have central air, so your place just gets hot. So, but it's only a couple months a year, but the rest of the time it's great.
Yeah, right now we're about 78, but we've been by the end of the week we'll be in the 60s. which is
Oh,
kind of
that's
odd for
great.
this time of year, but
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. So, I mean, I left New Orleans because, well, it wasn't as inspiring for me when I left
yeah,
back in the 90s, and well, it's hot.
yeah. And
It's
so
ve-
muggy.
yes,
How
yes.
long did you live there?
I grew up down there. I
Oh,
left when I was
cool.
16 and then moved back for a year when I was 26.
Hell yeah.
And
That
I
had
was
to be a
just
fun city to grow up in.
not as much as you think. I mean,
Really? Yeah.
it's the funny
Were you
thing.
there during Katrina?
No, no, I'm way
Okay,
older than that. My grandmother and my dad were there, but no, I was long gone. I grew up in
gotcha.
New Orleans in the 60s and the 70s and part of the 80s. So,
Okay.
so by the
You look
time,
great for your age.
thank you. Yeah, I'm 50s. I'll be 58 next month. So, yeah,
Cool.
maybe it's the no hair.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I mean, New Orleans, that's the one thing. It's everybody's like, as soon as they heard when I was in high school that I was from New Orleans, oh, you must know how to party. It was like, no, I was 15 years old. I went to a
Yeah,
Catholic
exactly.
school. I knew a lot of people that partied. I watched my dad have major parties, but
Yeah,
I wasn't.
totally.
It's just it's funny how people perceive. And that was the other thing was everybody thought I was from New York because of the accent.
Yeah, that
But
makes
it's like,
sense.
okay. And it was funny because I'm like, I don't have an accent, but the further I'm away from there, oh yeah, there's an accent there.
Yeah. Do you
Eh,
still hear the Chicago accent with me? Or
no, not really.
I feel like
No.
it's slowly faded. It used to be really
I,
thick.
I think what happens is
The
when you're,
Chicago, that
yeah,
the name,
yeah,
like,
when you're away from something for so long, it shows up late at night.
oh,
You're,
interesting. Yeah,
I was on set one time for a movie and I was talking to some other actors and some of the words I said later at night, 'cause it was like 2 in the morning. They're like, "Oh yeah, I hear you're from New Orleans now."
yeah,
I couldn't hear before, but now I do. So
yeah,
I think as we relax more, that's when it just kind of falls out.
totally. Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I
people would always make fun and joke at me when I first moved here for like how I would say the like and like
mhm.
Chris and like where your like nose really comes out. And then I would like be self-conscious about it. And it's almost like I self-corrected. But yeah, yeah,
Like
I always went just still there.
I have friends that are like pecan or pecan. I'm like, it's pecan. Or praline. I'm like, it's praline. What the hell are you talking about? You know, it's
Yeah.
there's those words. But, you know, when you were talking about the fact that community is important, you can feel alone wherever you are. You can feel alone in a crowded room. Nobody ever talks about that. It's all a
Totally.
matter of how do you fit in your own insecurities. And I think that has a lot to do with how you were raised. If you had a good supportive community as you were growing up, I don't think that
Oh,
feeling is there as much.
yeah, I think that's spot on for sure.
So are you going to tour this record? I know you made a couple of videos. Are you going to make some more videos? What is your long-term plans with this record?
So I want to I don't know about like an actual like full blown tour, but we're gonna start probably playing some shows in SoCal area this fall. Um, I haven't really played any shows since we did a show in April here, but it's kind of tricky because my bass player is a session bass player that uh plays for all these different people, and he'll be like one week he's like in New York at a festival with somebody, and it's hard to keep track of. And then my drummer threw his back out this summer, so he wasn't available for a couple months. So we're trying to regroup once my bass player gets back, and then start getting some shows for this fall because I've had to turn down some shows around town the last month or two, and then. I would like to do like a West Coast tour if I could set something up just here to up Seattle and back, maybe Denver. Um, uh, and then, yeah, probably do like might do like a music video, maybe two. It's hard to say just because I don't know how much people even pay attention to those anymore. But um, if there's like an idea there that like is worth doing, then I'll do it. So I'm just kind of waiting for that to come. Uh, and then, but I mean, it's so weird because I'm such like a studio rat that like even though the record hasn't come out, I'm just like I'm in the studio and I'm writing a bunch. So it's like I I'm not good at like the promo side. So I'm like I have to remind myself, like, especially when you ask that question, that like I have to like do stuff to promote it because like I'm already just like writing the next record and like I'm having a lot of fun doing that. And then like I was playing some songs for somebody the other day and I was like, oh, the first full length hasn't even come out, but it's like it's weird because it's like there's such a delay between when people hear the songs that you finished months and months ago. And I mean, when I finish a record, which was like in, I guess, May, April or May. So I still like took kind of a little break, and then I started writing for the next one. Uh, so I'm kind of like in the thick of that right now, but then trying to remind myself, like, well, wait, we gotta like Live Band has to learn these songs, some of these songs. I think we've only learned like maybe one of the new ones, and then booking some shows to play out, and doing all that. So it's a juggle, but yeah, just kind of I don't have like any super solid plans, but that's kind of the rough idea. So we'll see what happens.
Marketing is always, I mean, I'm an author and even the podcast, but as an author, it's like, okay, I wrote the book. I wrote this book that's got 100,000 words in it. Now you want me to condense it down to a blurb. And then I'm
Yeah,
supposed to market it. And it's like, how, why, what, and I'm already writing the next book, but I have to go back and I know exactly what you're saying. And it's just one of
yeah.
those things where you have to refocus yourself. I know some people are doing living room gigs. Is that something you might want to do?
Uh, maybe. I don't know if I would though. Just I don't know if it really like fits the sound. I could like I'm a uh like keyboard, piano player, synth player first and foremost. So if I did something like more stripped down, it would be like me and a piano probably. And I haven't really worked out the songs that much that way. Some of them were written that way, uh but yeah, to me it's more like a club gig or bigger if we could play a hall opening for somebody just because um it's just kind of in the sound of like what Waverly is to me, which is kind of like alternative pop with like a little flourish like psychedelia and some little flourish of new wave and some stuff like that. Um, yeah, yeah. So I don't know. Probably not the
Well,
answer.
and then here's the thing. So once you write something, you say you wrote it on the piano. Once it's evolved, it's hard to go back and go to the original piece and go, okay, I like because your ear has changed for the song.
Yeah, and it's a lot to me is like the just the way, if you're promoting it, like the way you promote the aesthetic. I mean, I guess I could go either way on this because I do also believe like if it's a great song, it can be played stripped down and come across just as well as but to me, like if I know people are hearing Waverly for the first time, which the majority of people that would hear us would be, uh, I kind of want them to hear like the aesthetic as intended the first time at least, if that makes sense.
No, you want the full package. You want to represent your, I don't want to say brand, but your brand, your band, you
Yeah,
want that image to be shown. So I understand.
totally.
Um, you said you're working on the next record. So is that going to be another EP or is that going to be another record too?
It's gonna be a full length. Yeah, yeah. There's not really any rush, but been writing a bunch of songs, so it's starting to come together. It's been a lot of fun. Yeah.
So why'd you come up with the name Waverly Drive?
Um, Waverly Drive came up pretty interestingly. So I was trying to come up with a name for the project, kind of after I had the first EP mostly done, and anytime I'd come up with a name that I actually really liked, I'd look it up and it would be taken. And then I was like, oh, because I've had to come up with a name before with my studio, which is called Voltiv, Voltiv. And during that process, which was 10 years ago, I kind of like started thinking, I'm like, gosh, like so many things are taken nowadays, uh, that it's like you almost have to make up words like Google, where you got to make. And even with that, just sidebar on that story, and then I'll get back to Waverly. I originally called it votive, like off of a votive candle,
Hmm.
and I didn't do my research enough, and it turned out there was some entertainment company in like Seattle that was called Votive. And like it was only a couple months into having this small studio, and all I had was like a website, nobody knew it. And I got like a letter from their lawyer that was like, "You got to change the name." And I was all bummed out because I bought like business cards and started the website and everything. And I was with another studio owner, um, showing him my place. We were just like kind of introducing each other, and there was a joint out, and uh, he was like, "Why don't you just add an L, like referring to an L, and call Voltiv, and which is kind of a totally made up word between voltage and votive, and I actually like that more. Um, but um, yeah, so it just kind of speaks to like how hard it is to come up with band names. So back to Waverly. Sorry for the wild. I'm always on like these wild tangents. I'm sorry.
You're fine.
So Waverly. So same thing happened. Same process happened. I like um thought of names. If it was like a normal word or a couple words, they'd be taken. I was like, oh dang. And then one night, like I was driving to the grocery with a friend. I live like in Los Feliz, which is near Silver Lake in Los Angeles, and drove past this street called Waverly Drive on the way to the grocery. And we were in the middle of the like this conversation of like names for the project. And then uh she said, "Why not Waverly Drive?" When we drove past the street. And I thought about it and I was like, that is actually perfect because so many of the songs are like driving and up tempo songs. And Waverly kind of like has this like feeling that reminds me of like waves on the beach, and Waverly kind of like little psychedelic little and so I was like, oh, that fits perfect. So it just stuck. I looked up, there were no bands called Waverly Drive. Um, and yeah, it stuck. The huge bummer moment I had like 2 years later, my dad called me up and he was like, "Ha, I know why you named it Waverly Drive now." And I was like, "Why?" And he was watching Tarantino's movie, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood,
Hmm.
and I guess Waverly Drive was like the street or the street over from where those murders, the Manson murders happened. And so he thought it was like that. And I was like, God, no. I was like, if I knew it was related to that. So that was kind of disappointing, but it was too far along when I learned that. Like, I think I learned that after I released the second EP. I was like, I'm not going to change the name now. But I was kind of like disappointed that it was related to that. Like, if you look it up, that'll come up in the search. I was like, oh, I don't want people to think that because that's not what. But yeah, it was just like driving past the street on the way to the grocery. We saw the name and we were like, that sounds cool. And it's simple.
That
So
works. It's better than I pulled a band name, or our friends and I created a band name playing Mad Libs.
yeah, yeah.
So,
No.
but it worked.
No,
It worked
it
for my
felt
project.
right. I had in my mind like I was like, I want it to be short. I want it to be easy to say, like couple syllables, maybe two words top. So I kind of had that, tried to make it like one word names and just couldn't get anything. And then we just got that like literally by happenstance driving the grocery, driving past it was like, it sounds great. So yeah, so I'm happy with it.
Wherever inspiration hits, that's where it hits.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, do you play any other instruments besides sing?
I mean, I play like keyboard,
Yeah.
piano. That's what I'm most proficient on. Um, And then I can like fumble around a guitar chord wise. I can play bass poorly. Like I played everything on the first EP, but like if you listen to the other ones, you can definitely tell like, oh, he's not very good at bass. You know? Uh, so it's like when I write the songs, I still like writing them pretty much all on my own and then bringing everybody else in. So sometimes I might like put a scratch bass takedown, although more recently I've just been using like synth bass and then adding real bass or replacing it or both. So it just depends on the song. So I can like fumble around those enough to like get ideas down. But at this point, like I got super lucky with the bandmates I have. So it's like when they come in the studio, it's like go to town. and then it always just goes up another level with them. So it's great.
Well, and they bring their own inspiration, I'm sure.
Yeah, totally.
So when you're working on the next project, is it much different? The next album, is it much different than what you're releasing this week?
It's very different. Yeah.
Which is good.
Yeah. I kind of like when I finished it, like I said, I took like a little break from writing and I kind of wanted I always have I mean, I don't think this is uncommon. I've always really admired artists that can just like that their catalog you look back and it's just like, man, they can wear so many hats and do so many things so well. It's so cool. And it gives you like a challenge and it also keeps things like exciting. And so it's like when I finished that album being like, okay, this is the first full length album, it was like take a little break from writing, uh, go back to like what I call the inspiration well, just listen to a bunch of my favorite records and just listen to some new stuff. And then start writing new and maybe switch up the process a little bit and switch up. So yeah, so the next one it's like much different. It's kind of like bipolar. There's like two types of songs. There's songs that are like really up tempo and like wild. Um, um, and then there's like really lush, like beautiful ones. So I think it's gonna kind of be, even though it's gonna be a full length, but it's gonna kind of be intentionally two sides, where one side, I don't know. That's kind of the working idea. Like when I got like maybe 10 songs into writing the new record, I kind of like took a step back and looked at like, well, okay, we've thrown paint at the wall. Like what's starting to like, is there anything starting to take shape? And that kind of was this unintentional thing that was like happening. It's like the songs were either like lush and like really like that Air song Cherry Blossom Girl, where it's like lush, like beautiful, like flowing,
Hmm.
or they were like Wild Prince Bowie. So it's been a lot of fun. Yeah. And yeah, that's what I'm like super into like right now, yesterday doing all that. So yeah, I just have to remind myself that I have to like somehow promote the record and, go get naked and dance on TikTok or whatever you got to do. But I don't know.
I
So
I don't have any advice for you because TikTok is not my forte
yeah.
because I've there's a lot of clicks over there, so that's why I just kind of stay in my own lane and not deal with it.
Yeah, all the kids are on it. I mean, you got to be on TikTok. I'm not good at it, but I have to get better at promotion, or not. I guess I don't know.
Well, I was gonna say, when you're talking about the 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 breakdown of the record, when there was a record back in 1989 by Duran Duran called Big Thing, and the first side of the record was very much danceable, very upbeat, and the second part of the record was more ethereal.
Yeah,
And so I think when you actually have the tangible product, it's easier to break it down like that. When you're doing and that's, I guess, my next question to you is when you're releasing things now on streaming services, you don't have that luxury of your whole full interpretation. So how do you deal with that?
I don't know if I have a good answer. I don't know.
I don't know that there is an answer because that's one of the things. It's like I can put it on random or skip, and I can listen to you, and then I can listen to somebody else, and every the conceptualized album now is not what it used to be. You as
For
an
sure.
artist get the satisfaction of creating it, but
Yeah,
as a listener, do
I
you?
think there's just so fewer people that are gonna, and I've had like close friends that are not musicians openly tell me this, and I get it. They're like, why are you making it out? Like nobody listens to albums, and I'm like, well, some people still do, but like, so it's like it's just the way it is,
But
you know.
how can you, here's a, I would pose this question back to them. How can you say that people don't listen to albums when we have the resurgence of vinyl?
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, and I think, I mean, everything's a pendulum. It's like you look far enough back, enough decades back, and it's like it was a whole singles era, what, like pre-Beatles and all that. And it's like, so things will. things will swing. If there's enough good records being made that are like good cohesive records, people will talk about them. So it's like maybe there just haven't been enough. I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, the way people consume music now is so different. It's so strange.
Well, but here's another way to look at this because as you were saying about the pendulum swing, we have people that are sitting there saying, well, streaming is everything. But then we have this other group that's saying, you know, you don't own what you're listening to. You don't own the movie. They can take that away from you at any time. So you
For sure.
need that actual tangible disc.
Oh, for sure.
So who's to say that, especially with the way the economy is going, that people do not actually start going back to real tangible stuff?
I mean, yeah, like you said, I mean, there's a vinyl resurgence, so it is happening.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how far it goes. I'm all
Well,
for it.
one of my friend's nephews wanted a portable cassette player
Yeah,
and cassettes, and I think he's like 13 years old. So, I mean, would you think that media would still be viable?
yeah, I know bands that put out cassettes. Yeah,
Hmm. So, I
yeah,
mean, I think there's an evolution process that eventually it might swing back and you might have those listeners that understand that concept.
totally.
I mean,
Yeah,
can you imagine if Pink Floyd never had a conceptual album?
exactly,
The Wall
exactly.
came out as singles and that was it. I mean, you would
Yeah,
lose so much.
it's ludicrous. Yeah, it's a crazy idea. And I mean, well, just selfishly speaking, like you said, you get the satisfaction. It's like selfishly speaking, I'm just doing it because like I love making music and it's just the funnest thing I can do in a day. So I'm like grateful to do it and lucky to do it. And it gets like more exciting the more you're like, oh, it's you're gonna see it coming together. It's like an interactive process where it's like you're doing it, but you're also kind of just like letting it take shape and let it kind of inform you. So it's interesting how that evolves and kind of just like growing with it. Um, uh, so I mean, yeah, selfishly, I just do it because it's like I'm gonna be doing it, whatever, no matter what, you know.
Here's a bit. So for me as an author, the first time I got to hold my book, tangibly hold my book, that was a moment of like, oh wow, I did this. I can't believe I actually did this. For you, what is that moment for you? Is it seeing the completed track list? Is it seeing being, hiring a PR company? What is that moment for you? What does that look like for you?
For me, I would say the closest thing is like when I get the masters back and I listen to the whole, I go for a drive and listen to the album straight through with the masters back. And uh sometimes I get like a revision on a master or two. Usually they're like pretty much ready. Um, but it's like that moment when you're done scrutinizing it, you're done editing it, you're just like then you kind of just like taking it. So yeah, it's probably that. Like car drive at night, uh yeah, just listening to it straight through and being able to take it in. Although it's weird because I mean I've talked to people about this recently, which is like even at that point you're still so deep into it when you first get the masters back that you hear it differently than later. So the other interesting moment is a couple months later, which like this was me like maybe a week or two ago, which I was like, I haven't listened to the record all the way through since I finished it. And I was like, oh, this should be interesting because for a while you're listening to songs every couple days, you're making tweaks. Oh, I'm going to change this word, or I'm going to change this, or I'm going to arrange this different, or whatever. There's all these adjustments that get made like iteratively. And then, so it's interesting when you're like haven't touched it and you kind of are hearing it with fresh ears. I mean, it's as fresh
Yeah.
as it's going to get, probably. And it's interesting because it's kind of scary. You're like, God, am I going to like cringe? Does this check out? Oh, God, it comes out in a week or two. It's too, uh, so that's a really fun moment too. And yeah, that was me like a week or two ago. And it's interesting because like so many of the details that you scrutinize over, you either like forgot about or like everything seems to fit in place at that point, ideally, you know. But that's how I feel about this one. I feel like I've been the happiest with like the finished product on this than the EPs. I tried to be a little more um, detail oriented on some edits and things that I would miss in the past. Um, but yeah, so I'm happy about it. I'm excited. Yeah.
Has imposter syndrome ever crept in?
I don't, not really.
Good.
Um, I always hear about people talking about that when they get like a lot of success, or I mean, I don't think that many people know about Waverly Drive at this point. I don't feel I'm just kind of like so deep into making music that I kind of just don't think about it, if that makes sense, at least at this point.
No, it does. It does.
Yeah.
I think the imposter syndrome would happen more, I hate to say it, as you promote it, because
Yeah,
putting yourself out into an atmosphere where you're not comfortable, i.e., TikTok, you're putting yourself on there and you're not comfortable with that, that may bring up some of those feelings.
for sure. Yeah.
I
I'm not a
mean,
big,
I don't know about you. I mean, if I were younger, sure, I'd most likely be out there dancing or doing, but it also comes down to the point of I remember my mother telling me all the time, if they jumped off a bridge, would you follow them?
yeah.
And that's kind of the mentality over there.
Yeah.
Not to
Yeah. I
knock it.
don't think I'll be doing any dances then too.
Or better yet, and this, I'm a former car insurance adjuster. Let me
Yeah.
jump out of my car and dance while the car is still going.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I just, yeah. I don't understand. I guess that's another thing when you look at what you're talking about with community and everything. While it's great that you're able to form that community over there on TikTok, at what point is it all about pick me, look at me, and it's not really a community?
Yeah. I feel like with those influencers, it's for sure that. Yeah. Totally.
Do you
It's weird what all that's done to like, uh, it's just weird hearing people call that stuff like content. Like in the word, it's like inherently disposable. Like in the word, it's like,
mm-hmm.
don't call it content. Or
it
it's like,
And that's the thing. It's like, where is the creativity? And then you look at, and which goes back to another part of decadence. Let's have AI do everything.
yeah,
Hi, and I know you have. I'm sure you have. I'm sure you saw Terminator. I'm sure you saw War of the Worlds.
yeah,
And do we want to be, and knowing that AI takes so much of our environment as far as it dirties the air, it takes water. What are we getting for it? Some slop?
yeah. A lot of slap. I mean, oh, it's going to be crazy in a couple years seeing how much stuff online is just AI made. I mean, it's already I've read a few headlines lately that just say how much the sheer amount already showing up. I haven't like seen that much personally, but yeah, it's crazy. I don't know. I don't know
Well,
what to think about any of it.
well, when an AI can get a record contract, that's
Yeah,
scary.
yeah. I wish that like Spotify and all that the streaming places, I would like if like because there was that whole debacle with that I don't remember what the band was called, but the AI band that had the AI artwork that racked up like 1 million listeners on
Hmm.
Spotify really quick a couple of months ago. And and that's I remember like uh whatever the heck that they were called. It showed up on like a radio thing I had on Spotify one day. And I skipped it because one, like the music was horrible. Like if I wanted to listen to music like that, I remember it kind of being like the Eagles or something. It's like if I want, I would just listen to the real thing
Yeah.
for starters. And second, it doesn't sound like some people are like, oh, AI, it's so impressive how it's gotten with music. And I don't hear it. I mean, it sounds like it can do really good regurgitations of past things that but still like making music all the time you can hear, and I've talked to music friends about this, when it's all AI you can hear that like this doesn't sound human. There's like no soul to it. Like I've heard ones that sound like Green Day, but it's like the same thing. It's like if I wanted to listen to that, I would just listen to Green Day or like whatever the style was. And then like I remember hearing that rapper Tyler the Creator kind of he was saying like, oh, I'm not worried about it because like and to the extent of where it's at so far, I mean it's gonna keep advancing. But I agree with him to the extent that it's gotten so far, which is like his view is like I'm not worried about it because like I'm the one making stuff and creating and pushing the limits and pushing the boundaries. It's just imitating me. So I'm still gonna be like a stuff. And to the point where it's at least from what I've heard up to recently, I still feel that way. But I mean it is gonna get better and better, most likely. So that's creepy. But I wish that what back to what I was gonna say is I wish that like Spotify or Apple Music had like just a switch in your settings where you could be like do not show me any all AI music and like make people say if it's all AI music. Like at the very least do that. Like when they did the whole with CDs, when they did the stamp where you had to say like explicit lyrics on the
Hmm.
CD cover, it's like at least put like something that says like this is all AI and give me a switch in settings that say like I don't want to be fed that. Like at the very least do that. It's creepy enough, like you said, that labels are signing. I don't even know what that means, signing an AI or something.
Who gets the money? I mean,
Oh, wait,
yeah.
get more of
I mean,
it.
Amazon and YouTube will ask if your content, because as an author, you have to put your books, when you put your books up there, they'll ask if there's AI content and you have to
Yeah,
declare that.
yeah,
But, like for the author business, we have readers going, well, there's an M dash and this person, the best one is recently was somebody is a reader or an author is now suing a reader. Firstly, the person pirated the book. Secondly, she's claiming it was AI written because the person wrote that the character patted across the floor, ran its hands through its hair. And she's like, this has to be AI written.
yeah,
No, it was trained off of an actual book. So,
yeah,
and we all do these things. So yeah, the author is actually suing this person because for
right,
defamation.
yeah.
But you stole the book to begin with, which is really funny when you think about it. And then now you're doing this. But that's the
That's
thing. It's
crazy.
like every readers are sitting there screaming it's AI when it's not.
Yeah,
So I think that's the slippery slope we're walking in. And I've heard things that companies have fired their workers to bring in AI, and it's not been the benefit that they thought it was going to be.
yeah.
All I hope is that we don't end up like Wally.
I still haven't seen Wally, and people keep telling me it's a great movie. I
It
gotta check it
is.
out.
I'm not a big kids movie, but Wally is. It really does talk about AI and
Yeah,
basically how the world is destroyed, and these two robots fall in love, and how humanity basically is left to a Barker lounge and a TV screen in front of them.
yeah.
Can you see that reality?
Oh yeah,
If we keep going.
oh yeah.
So, um, is there anything else that we haven't talked about that you might like to add?
Um, Nothing I can think of. Um, yeah. Well,
All right. Well, I thank you, Phil, for coming on.
I appreciate you having me. Thanks so much.
One of the things that Phil and I talked about is community, and I think that is something that we've lost since 2020. It's hard to find your own community because where do I fit? Where do I belong? For me, this year has been a tough spot because I moved last November. And yes, I know a couple of my neighbors, but I was here 2 months and I ended up with cancer. And then it was like, okay, here you go. And yes, I met nurses at the cancer center and everything, but they're not my friends. I know that. And the shop I used to work at, which is out here, is gone. So where do I fit in? And that's something that I'm trying to figure out, and I have to figure out as I move forward. But I think a lot of us are feeling that because we have family that may not agree with us politically or our religious views or even our lifestyles. And how do we get past those things? How do we embrace those things and look at people with compassion and love and not at what they believe, at their gender? And granted, if they believe something harmful that's going to hurt somebody else, then that's a problem, especially when they're flying a Christian flag. And I'm not knocking anybody that's Christian, but how can you sit there and claim to be Christian when you're not being loving? And I know we didn't talk about this, but I think back to, in the early 2000s when we had the WWJD bracelets and everything was WWJD. But yet, as we look at life now, it's not that way. We're going against what he would have taught. And I find it funny because I'm watching old Law and Order, and I see these things, these cases where they're like, well, the Supreme Court wouldn't allow that. Even Roe v. Wade, they're like Roe v. Wade will never go away. Well, here we are, and I look at how the show, even though it is a good show still, those are moments like that where it doesn't age well, because I've seen those changes, and I find myself scoffing at the TV, going, yeah. Just fast forward to 2025. But when we look at the record, Decadence, and we think about what is going on in the world and how he framed it about the second Gilded Age, you know, when I listened to the music, I thought of the 80s and, the decadent time of the 80s. And to me, it was very fitting. But the decadent time of the 80s opened up the door for a lot of things to happen where we are now. And the one thing that has to come about, and this goes back to the WWJD thing too, is we have to look at humanity, that people are not disposable. We don't need all the machines to do everything. We don't need the machines to be in power. People can make rational thought. We can make rational opinions, rational ideas. And we need to move forward with that. We need to move forward with humanity as a collective, as people, because we are worth surviving. But we have to let go of the decadence and the wars. And, people are like, well, if I win the lottery, as I said earlier, I don't want to be taxed. It was free money. So anything you win is a gift, and you should accept that and not sit there and think you should be getting all this. Because, as he said earlier, the Rockefellers used to socialize still with the little man. The Rockefellers used to give money to charity organizations. They used to build museums. They would help do things. Now, when a corporation comes to town, and this is something I saw about one of the data centers, we're going to screw up your water. We're going to burn up the electricity, and we're going to use more electricity than had before. And oh, wait, you're going to get a tax break and not pay any taxes for 10 years. This is happening in Indiana. So the state or the city where this is building, this AI center is going to be, they're being sold that this is going to be a wonderful thing, but the community may get 50 jobs out of it. Meanwhile, as we've seen in Texas, drinking water is going bad. They have to limit their showers. We also have to sit there and, in Tennessee, the air quality is pure or poor, not pure, poor. So, what is the benefit? Because then I don't have to do research, and this is going to give me some kind of idea of what I should do. And the fact is, it's not necessarily the right idea. South Park skewed. Um, South Park really took AI to task. And I think that was a wise idea on their part because it shows some of the truth behind it. Do we really need AI to sit there and create slop? We have enough creative people out there. And I look at commercials and they're like, oh, well, AI, AI will do all these tasks for you and then you can be creative. Well, all I see is it ripping off music, ripping off books, and now it's going into TV and you can make clips, video clips. They want to use that for TV and movie work. That's not technology. It stole from something, and we need to get past that. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the show. I'm off my soapbox now. I hope you enjoyed the show, and I thank you for tuning in. And well, guys, I thank Fast Susie for the intro and outro music as well. And I thank Phil for coming on. And most importantly, I thank you guys for being here, tuning in, and I'll catch you next time, guys. Bye.